Hey everybody, Norm over here, Norm's Rare Guitars, and I've got my good friend Mike Elizondo, and Mike is one of the great bass players, producers, writers. He's played with so many top names. I know you don't want to talk about it, but tell me some of the people that you've played with.
Well, thanks for letting me do this, by the way. This has always been a pleasure. This is like, you know, this is like the neighborhood hang. You
well,
know,
you're one of the family here, you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently had some success working with bands like 21 Pilots, Muse. I've recently started doing some work with.
Singles too.
Yeah, yeah, their singles like Stressed Out and Heathens for 21 Pilots. A new song by Muse called Dig Down. But I spent, you know, probably about 11 years of my life in the early 2000s working with Dr. Dre.
Right.
So
and you produced a lot of that stuff with Dre,
you know,
bass on a lot of those
originally it was hired bass player, and sort of, you know, rose up the ranks a little bit as a songwriter, and then played guitar and keyboards as well as bass on a lot of tracks for Eminem and 50 Cent and Mary J. Blige and Gwen, and you know, it was a good 11-year time span where Dre was, you know, sort of reinventing himself again after Death Row Records. He started Aftermath Records, and I kind of came in right at the very beginning of that whole era.
Yeah, Dre used to live in my neighborhood. So did Eazy-E and Jerry Heller. And
was that out in Calabasas?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
So Dr. Dre, even one day I was trying to punish my son Jordan, and because he missed the school bus, and I put him on a bench, a bus bench, and gave him $5 and said, "Now take a bus to school." And I was, you know, I mean, he kind of talked back to me and everything. And he knew Dre from the neighborhood, and Dre comes up in a white Ferrari and drove him to school. And it was like probably, he pulls into the schoolyard and all his friends are there, and here comes in a white Ferrari, Dr. Dre and my son. From a punishment, it went to the greatest day of his life. So,
of course, that's amazing.
So that didn't work out all that well.
Yeah, but you know, good story.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
But tell us about some of the other like studio experiences, because I mean, you were like the hired gun that became the producer.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I kind of started out playing in bands locally. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, in Pacoima. I'll rep Pacoima out
there.
There
you go.
But yeah, you know, I just played in a lot of bands. I went to a high school that was kind of a music academy, and met guys like Abel Boreal Jr.,
great,
incredible drummer with McCartney, and so he
Abe Senior's not too bad.
Well,
either,
that was sort of what I was leading to. Through Abe Jr., became acquainted with Abe Senior, and started to you know unravel like what a studio musician is, and the fact that that could be a job, you know, and guys like Abe. And just, you know, looking at records and just seeing all these guys, they always get hired, you know. And so I started to get some session work probably in like, you know, 1997, 98. And it was, you know, fortunately it was guys like Glenn Ballard would hire me to play on some records. T-Bone Burnett.
T-Bone's a buddy of mine, yeah.
And then I had an amazing encounter with Jim Keltner, the incredible, legendary drummer.
Nice.
And I had a session with T-Bone with Jim, and Jim recommended me to Ry Cooder. And that was just, cool. You know, for me, just a dream come true. And I play upright bass as well, so Ry liked that I could play electric and upright, and I got to play on a really cool record called Chavez Ravine, and a few other things. He produced a Mavis Staples record that I got to play bass on.
One of my favorite groups.
And so I kind of had this dual life where I'm doing,
you know, Pop still alive at that time?
No, unfortunately, no. But
my friend is singing background with Mavis, who used to work in my band right now. It's got Donnie Gerard, one of the great singers.
And we did it at Sound City, you know, the famed Sound City, and it was all live. So while you're playing, you know, Mavis is standing, you know, 10 feet away from you, and so it was great because I'd have one headphone on, but I'd take the other one off just so that I could hear the room, you know, and hear Rise Amp and hear Mavis singing and Jim playing drums, and it just was, you know, and so I would do those sessions, and we'd be done by 6 o'clock. And then I'd go over to these sessions with Dre, you know, and we're coming up with, you know, beats for Eminem, and so it was an incredible opportunity, and it sort of set the course for what I do now as a producer, and, you know, still a musician.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like a lot of the acts that called you are like into that earthy kind of thing, you know, where it's not all synthed out. It's pretty much, you know.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, I've always gravitated towards capturing performances, you know. Even the hip hop stuff I did was always performance with drum machines. You had live bass, you had live guitar. And so it's just the way I love to hear music, so it's the way I try and capture it and produce it. And most of the bands that I come to want to sound contemporary, so there's an element of that you have to understand, but you know, but also one foot in sort of the traditional performance-based
combining the two.
Yeah, so it's been fun. You know, I'm blessed. It's a great gig, and I get to meet a lot of cool people, and I still get to play with a lot of great musicians.
And my buddy Doyle.
Doyle
Jr.
Doyle the second, man. I mean, that guy, you know, I was already a huge fan, and then I got to meet him, and then, but we've known each other, I don't know, probably 12, 13 years now, and have had a lot of great, you know, musical experiences. And one, we did a residency with Wendy and Lisa from Prince's band, from Revolution, with Doyle on guitar.
But wasn't one of them his girlfriend at the time?
Well, yeah, he was married to Susanna, you know, Wendy's twin sister. And so she was also singing backgrounds. Abe Jr. playing drums, Abe Boreal Jr. I played bass, and we did a residency at a club called Largo, which is a, you know,
Cafe Largo.
Yeah, you know, staple here of LA. And one night, fortunately, was the night that my dad came. Clapton showed up, and so Clapton, you know, came up. And I want to say it was Compared to What? You remember that song? Was that Eddie Harris? And Compared to What? You know, and he just came up and blowed. You know, just probably played for 20 minutes. You know, just soloed, and it felt like a blink of an eye, but it was just an incredible feeling.
And you actually wrote some tunes for Clapton.
Yeah,
too.
Doyle and I had written a song that Clapton loved and fortunately recorded. And I also have the great fortune of being the same year that I had a Clapton cut. Was the same year that I co-wrote and produced In the Club for 50 Cent. So, you know, that's something, a badge of honor I'll take. I think I'm the only guy that I got to work with Clapton and 50 in the same year.
And then what about B.B. King?
So B.B., you know, was just a very brief couple of weeks, but it was a record that T-Bone Burnett produced. And it was Dr. John on piano, and Keltner's playing drums. I think Jay Belrose also was playing drums, and you know, it's B.B. King, and some of the sessions we did, it was dual bass, and I was playing electric. Nathan East was playing upright bass.
Nathan's great too. He's a friend of mine.
Oh man,
what a great player he is.
Legend and one of my heroes. And just to be in that room, it's those moments where you're like, how did I get here? Like, who did I trick into thinking I should be here? You know, but
well, you know, I feel that way here, just being in my store, having guys like you, and having Larry Carlton, and
we love this place,
Joe Bonamassa,
this is home.
You know, Richie Sambora, and on and on, Tom Petty, and you know, I mean, you know, we just never know who might come in. I kind of go, I actually get paid for this. So it's kind of amazing. Mike was saying, you know, give me any crappy bass and I'll try to make it sound good. So I found this crappy Harvest Gold 63 jazz bass.
That color you see every day, you know, nothing.
Something I've had in my warehouse for 40 years.
This is gorgeous. I
mean, it's like completely out of control.
I actually purchased a 64 Lake Placid Blue.
That was in my book.
That was also, it was in your book. And I just remember having your book, and you know, I've been fortunate to be able to have owned, you know, a number of guitars that I've bought through you and from you, and I remember just looking at this book and going, all right, someday, you know, I'm going to get that. And years later, I just called you up, and you're like, you know,
you have that bass still?
You know, and you were willing to part with it, man. So I'm forever grateful. But this is beautiful, man, and thank you for letting me.
Well, that was a bass, and this is kind of like that too, where, you know, I fell in love with them when I was early on. And I said, how could I sell this and how could I replace it? Now I'm getting to be an old man.
Yeah.
I figured one day maybe I'll get out and gig, but if you heard me play, there are no gigs for me. So, but anyhow, so I figured I'll put them in the hands of the right guys. And
nice,
Getty, I think, is going to be buying this bass.
Go to a great home, right?
Yeah, so I wanted you to just check this out.
Oh, it's beautiful,
and that blue bass was another one I wasn't planning on selling, but it's Mike, and he's my buddy.
Oh,
so.
man, thank you. Yeah.
Can you play a little bit for us, man? Just show us some of maybe a couple classic lines from some of the stuff that you've done.
Well, here, I don't, you know, I'm trying to think of, it's one of those moments where you say, hey, play something that you wrote, and then everything goes blank. But let's see. I'll just improvise something. Is that all right? You know, so let's see.
Beautiful.
This thing is gorgeous.
Mike Elizondo, one of the greats. And we're here at Norm's Rare Guitars and the All Guitar Network, our newest project that we're just getting ready to announce.
It's going to be big.
So I think it's going to be really cool for all you guitar nerds, is the word that Joe Bonamassa uses.
Right here.
Yeah, where I think we all kind of fit into that category if you like guitars. And it's always a pleasure to have Mike in here. And I hope you'll come in and maybe we can do some more interviews and stuff for the All Guitar Network.
I'm in the neighborhood, so you
all right, I love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
Right.
Thank you, Norm. All right.
Family, Mike Elizondo, right here at Norm's Rare Guitars and the All Guitar Network.
All right.